"Why do you waste your food on that dirty old man?" the other sellers would ask her. "You barely have enough for yourself." Joy would just smile and say, "He is hungry. I cannot eat while someone else is starving. That would make the food taste bad in my mouth." The other sellers thought Joy was foolish. They laughed at her behind her back, but Joy did not care what they thought. Her mother had taught her to always help people who had less than she did, and even though Joy had very little, old John had even less. On this particular afternoon, Joy counted her money. She had sold only 15 bunches of bananas. It was not a good day. She looked at the remaining bananas and sighed. Then she looked across the street at old John, who was sitting in his usual spot, looking weak and tired. Joy picked the 3 best bananas from her cart and wrapped some rice and stew in a plastic bag. She had bought the rice and stew for her own dinner, but old John needed it more than she did. She could eat plain bread tonight. Joy walked across the street, dodging the cars and motorcycles that zoomed past. When she reached old John, she knelt down beside him with a warm smile. "Good afternoon, Papa John," she said softly. Joy always called him Papa because he reminded her of a grandfather she wished she had. Old John's tired eyes lit up when he saw Joy. "My daughter," he said in a weak voice, "you are here again." "Of course I am here," Joy said, opening the bag of rice. "I brought you lunch. It is still warm." She helped old John hold the bag steady because his hands shook too much. As he ate, Joy peeled one of the bananas and handed it to him. "You are too kind to me," old John said, tears forming in his old eyes. "God will bless you, my daughter. God will surely bless you." "Just eat, Papa John," Joy said, patting his shoulder gently. "You need your strength." While old John ate, Joy sat beside him on the ground, not caring that her dress would get dirty. She told him about her day, about the rude customer who had argued over 50 naira, about the little boy who had smiled at her that morning. Joy did not notice the big black car that had stopped on the other side of the street. She did not see the tall man in an expensive suit who had stepped out of the car, his bodyguards surrounding him. She did not know that this man was staring at her and old John with wide, shocked eyes. The man's name was Paulson, and he was one of the richest men in all of Nigeria. He owned hotels, shopping malls, and companies. He had more money than he could ever spend. But for the past 5 years, Paulson had been searching for something more valuable than all his wealth. He had been searching for his father. Paulson's father had disappeared 5 years ago. One day he was there, and the next day he was gone. Paulson had searched everywhere. He had hired private detectives. He had offered huge rewards. He had put his father's picture on television and in newspapers, but no one had seen him. It was as if his father had vanished into thin air. The loss had broken Paulson's heart. He and his father had been very close. Paulson's mother had died when he was young, and his father had raised him alone, working hard to send him to school. When Paulson became rich, he had built a beautiful house for his father, but his father had lived there for only 2 years before he disappeared. Now, standing on this dusty street, Paulson could not believe his eyes. That old beggar sitting under the tree, the one the young woman was feeding so kindly, looked exactly like his father. Paulson's heart began to pound. His hands started to shake. "Stay here," he told his bodyguards, and he crossed the street, walking slowly toward the tree. Joy saw the tall man approaching. She stood up quickly, suddenly nervous. The man looked important and rich. His suit probably cost more money than she made in a whole year. What did he want? But Paulson was not looking at Joy. He was staring at old John, tears streaming down his face. "Papa," Paulson whispered. "Papa, is that you?" Old John looked up at the tall man. For a moment, his eyes were confused. Then, slowly, something changed in his face. His eyes grew wide. His mouth opened. The banana fell from his shaking hand. "Paulson," old John whispered, "my son." Paulson fell to his knees and grabbed his father's hands. Let's pause on the story. If you're enjoying this story so far, let me know by subscribing to this channel. It helps me tell even more stories like this one. If you've subscribed, let's get back into the story. After Paulson fell to his knees, and grabbed his father's hands. He was crying now, crying like a little child. Papa, Papa, I have been looking for you everywhere. Where have you been? What happened to you? Joy stepped back, her hand over her mouth in shock. This rich man was Papa John's son. Old John was crying too. My son, he said, touching Paulson's face with his shaking hands. My dear son, I am so sorry, I am so sorry. What happened, Papa? Why did you leave? I searched for you everywhere. Old John's voice was weak and sad. I was sick, my son, very sick. I went to the hospital for tests, and the doctor said I had a disease in my brain. He said I would forget things, that I might even forget who I was. I was so afraid. I did not want you to see me like that. I did not want to be a burden to you, so I left. I thought it would be better for you if I just disappeared. Better for me, Paulson cried. Papa, you are my father. Nothing could ever make you a burden to me. I have been dying inside, not knowing where you were, if you were alive or dead. I am sorry, my son. The sickness made me confused. I wandered around for days, and then I could not remember where I lived. I could not remember your phone number. I could not remember anything except my name. I have been living on the streets all this time, and I thought I would die here, alone and forgotten. Paulson hugged his father tightly, not caring that his expensive suit was getting dirty. You are not alone, Papa. You are not forgotten. I am taking you home right now, today, this very moment. Then Paulson looked up at Joy, who was standing there with tears running down her face. You, he said, what is your name? Joy, sir, she said quietly. Joy, Paulson repeated, standing up. How long have you been taking care of my father? Joy wiped her tears. I have been giving him food every day for 3 years, sir, since I started selling bananas at this corner. Paulson stared at her in amazement. 3 years? You have been feeding my father every day for 3 years. Yes, sir, he was hungry. I could not just walk past him. But you are poor yourself. I can see that you barely have anything, yet you shared your food with a stranger. Joy looked down at her worn shoes. He is not a stranger, sir. He is Papa John. He is a person just like me. My mother taught me that we must always help each other, especially when times are hard. Paulson felt more tears coming to his eyes. This young woman, who had almost nothing, had been keeping his father alive all this time, while Paulson had been searching everywhere, spending thousands and thousands of naira on detectives and advertisements. This poor banana seller had been quietly feeding his father every single day. You saved my father's life, Paulson said, his voice shaking with emotion. If not for you, he would have died on these streets. How can I ever repay you? You do not need to repay me, sir, Joy said. I was just doing what was right. But Paulson shook his head. No, you must let me help you, please. It would make me very happy. Joy did not know what to say. She just stood there, feeling overwhelmed by everything that was happening. Paulson called his bodyguards over. Help my father into the car. Take him to the hospital immediately. I want the best doctors to examine him. I want him to have everything he needs. The bodyguards gently helped old John to his feet. Old John looked at Joy and reached out his shaking hand to touch her face. God bless you, my daughter. You have been an angel to me. Go with your son, Papa John, Joy said, smiling through her tears. Be well. As the bodyguards helped old John to the car, Paulson turned to Joy. Where do you live? Please, I need your address. Joy gave him the address of her small room. Paulson wrote it down carefully in his phone. I will come to see you tomorrow, Paulson said. Please, do not go anywhere. I want to talk to you. Joy nodded, still too shocked to speak properly. She watched as the big black car drove away, taking Papa John to his new life. Joy stood there for a long time, just staring at the empty spot where the car had been. Then she walked back to her banana cart and sat down. The other sellers rushed over to her, all talking at once. What happened? Who was that rich man? Did you see that car? What did he say to you? But Joy just shook her head. She could not explain it. It all felt like a dream. That night Joy could not sleep. She kept thinking about what had happened. She was so happy that Papa John had found his son, but she also felt sad. Who would she give food to now? Who would she talk to during her lonely afternoons? The next day, Joy woke up early as usual and went to her corner to sell bananas. But she could not stop thinking about Papa John and Paulson. At exactly 10 o'clock, the big black car appeared again. Paulson stepped out, and this time he walked straight to Joy's cart. "Good morning, Joy," he said with a warm smile. "Good morning, sir," Joy said nervously. "Please call me Paulson, and please, can we go somewhere to talk, maybe a restaurant where we can sit down?" Joy looked at her cart of bananas. "But sir, I need to sell my bananas." "I will buy all your bananas," Paulson said. "How much for everything?" Joy's eyes went wide. "All of them, sir." "Yes, all of them." Joy calculated quickly. "That would be 15,000 naira, sir." Paulson pulled out his wallet and handed Joy 30,000 naira. "Here, now please come with me, we need to talk." Joy could not believe she was holding 30,000 naira. That was more money than she usually made in 2 weeks. She quickly locked her cart and followed Paulson to a nice restaurant nearby. They sat at a table, and Paulson ordered food and drinks. Joy felt uncomfortable in such a fancy place. She had never been to a restaurant like this before. "Joy," Paulson began, "I want to tell you about my father. The doctors examined him yesterday. He has a disease that makes him forget things, just like he said. But with proper medicine and care, he can get much better. He is at my house now, resting in a comfortable bed, eating good food, and he is already looking healthier." "I am so glad, sir," Joy said, smiling. "I was worried about him." "He talks about you all the time," Paulson said. "He says you are the kindest person he has ever met, and I agree with him. Joy, you took care of my father when no one else would. You shared your food with him even though you barely had enough for yourself. You treated him with dignity and respect when everyone else saw him as garbage. You did all this not because you wanted anything in return, but because you have a good heart." Joy felt tears coming to her eyes. "I just did what my mother taught me, sir." "Your mother raised an amazing daughter," Paulson said. "Joy, I want to help you. I want to change your life the way you saved my father's life. Will you let me?" "Sir, you do not have to do anything for me," Joy said. "But I want to," Paulson insisted. "Please, Joy, let me do this." Joy did not know what to say, so she just nodded. Over the next few weeks, amazing things began to happen in Joy's life. Paulson rented her a nice apartment in a safe neighborhood. He gave her money to buy new clothes and furniture. He paid for her to go to school to learn about business. But most importantly, Paulson spent time with Joy. He came to visit her often, and they would talk for hours. Paulson told Joy about his businesses and his life. Joy told Paulson about her dreams and her hopes for the future. Paulson introduced Joy to his father, who was now living in Paulson's big house and getting stronger every day. Old John hugged Joy tightly and thanked her again and again for saving his life. As the months passed, Paulson realized that his feelings for Joy were growing into something more than gratitude. He admired her kindness, her strength, and her pure heart. He had met many women in his life, rich and educated women, but none of them had Joy's beautiful spirit. Joy felt the same way about Paulson. She saw that despite his wealth, he was humble and kind. He treated everyone with respect, from his servants to his business partners. He was generous and caring, and he made Joy laugh like she had never laughed before. One year after that faithful day when Paulson found his father, he called Joy to his office. Joy walked in, nervous as always when she visited such fancy places. "Joy," Paulson said, "I have something for you." He handed her a folder full of papers. Joy opened it and tried to read the documents, but the words were too complicated. "What is this, Paulson?" she asked. "It is the deed to a shopping mall," Paulson said, smiling. "I am giving it to you to manage." Joy's mouth fell open. "A shopping mall? But Paulson, I do not know how to manage a shopping mall." "You have been studying business for a year now," Paulson said, "and you are smart and hardworking. You will learn. I will help you. And I trust you, Joy. I trust you more than anyone else in the world." Joy started crying. "Paulson, this is too much. I cannot accept this." Joy, Paulson said gently, taking her hands. Do you remember what you told me when I first wanted to thank you? You said you were just doing what was right. Well, this is me doing what is right. You deserve this, and so much more. Joy hugged him tightly, crying tears of joy and gratitude. But Paulson was not finished. A few months later, after Joy had started managing the shopping mall and doing an excellent job, Paulson took her to a beautiful restaurant overlooking the ocean. They ate dinner and talked and laughed, and then Paulson got down on one knee. Joy gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Joy, Paulson said, holding out a ring that sparkled in the candlelight, you came into my life as an angel who saved my father, but you have become so much more than that. You have become my best friend, my inspiration, and the love of my life. You have shown me what true kindness and goodness look like. Will you marry me? Joy was crying so hard she could barely speak. Yes, she finally managed to say, yes, Paulson, yes. Paulson slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up to kiss her. Around them, the other people in the restaurant clapped and cheered. Joy thought about how her life had changed. 1 year ago, she had been a poor banana seller, struggling to survive. She had given food to a beggar simply because it was the right thing to do, never expecting anything in return. And now, here she was, managing a shopping mall and engaged to marry the most wonderful man she had ever met. As Joy hugged Paulson, feeling happier than she had ever felt in her entire life, she whispered a prayer of thanks. She thanked God for her mother, who had taught her to be kind. She thanked God for Papa John, who had needed her help. And she thanked God for Paulson, who had shown her that goodness and kindness are always rewarded, even when we least expect it. Joy had learned that when you help others without expecting anything back, the universe finds a way to bless you beyond your wildest dreams. Her small acts of kindness had changed not just her life, but the lives of everyone around her. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.